I'll call this Bob Shout's solutions to Republicans and Christians and Christian churches, sincere Christian churches, and tells hypocrites to straighten up about drug law solutions. You think your way is right? Look how bad it is. You've empowered the drug cartels. I've studied this a long time, and I have some confidence right now. That's why I'm doing it this way. But so when I say shout, I just got a little loud to support my title here. But I'm going to say it with confidence. And I might get a little passionate, but I'm going to say it all right here in the beginning as fast as I can, the solution, before I would go into any explanation. And I'm not sure if I'll do much explanation. I hope it's short. But the solution, I want to point out the epiphany here and the solution. Look, people play with words. They play with words. Even some people I like in Fox News and stuff, when it comes to this subject, they play with words and act like legalizing makes it legal for addicts or whatever. When I talk about legalizing, which that might not even be the right terminology, here's the solution. You put it, instead of having the epiphany first and then the solution, it grows in the ground. Medicines that grow in the ground naturally should be legal for scientists, legal for licensed scientists and doctors, and debatably legal as in the plant form in some licensed places. But the concentrated forms, those should be legal. Instead of leaving it, they grow out of the ground, for goodness sake. This is my epiphany. They grow out of the ground, and you have them illegal instead of in a licensed scientist's hands. So that's the epiphany. And so what you're doing with my new way of, there's a proper approach to it. There's got to be a proper approach, but nobody cares. I care. All right? I've cared for a long time, but it's been hard for me to figure it out because I've had zero help pretty much. But I've talked to all kind of people. I've talked to, I guess I'm not doing my solutions right away, but I've talked to church folks, Christian folks. I've talked to political folks. I've talked to people in the cartels and gangs, and they all agree with the church people. The cartels and the church people agree. There's something not right about that. But, I mean, the people who are active in cartels, they're into killing people and stuff. That's the thing. They're into, I won't say it's all of them, but they're caught with people that do that. They're surrounded. It's huge. They've taken over. Think about this. They've taken over pretty much every inner city, poor neighborhood in the country. You know how big that is? And then there's nowhere safe to go and buy a first starter home anymore. To buy a cheap starter home, you're dodging bullets. I mean, you can chance it. You can try to keep your nose out of trouble, and then you got people that stand up against that stuff in some of those places. But it's dangerous. Most people don't do it. And so what people end up doing, they're renting all these apartments, rentals, and there's not much housing anymore because it costs too much to buy, because you can't get a starter home anymore. Because cartels own them all. I mean, they run the neighborhoods. Whether they own them all, they run the neighborhoods, and they own a lot of them. So they've turned those into dangerous neighborhoods. Okay, so right now, what y'all have done is let the natural plants that God created for medicine, you've let it be in the hands of cartels by making it illegal for scientists to be in their hands. All right? So here's the thing. Once you make it legal in scientists' hands, then you crack down on addicts. You can crack down on addicts, and you can crack down, first of all, you disempower the cartels, because the scientists are supposed to make safe medicine forms, not poisoned medicine forms, safer forms, and we preach God. We preach responsibility. and all this. So you have it in adult places. Then you actually can, it makes sense to crack down on the illegal dealers when you have a legal venue. Right now, it doesn't make sense because everybody just knows out there, the people know that a lot of those medicines, they help them. They help them through pain and stuff like that. They do because they have real medicine in them. But it's mixed with other stuff. That's the problem. It's not just mixed with other stuff. People kill just over $5 in that out there. And we qualify it. Well, they shouldn't have been doing drugs. And that's wrong. You know what? You crack down on addicts. You legalize it the proper way, the scientific way. You put it in licensed hands, right? Licensed dealers. Licensed, starting with scientists making better forms. And then you also, and it goes to doctors, the concentrated forms, technically. And then it's debatable whether you have the plant forms in licensed dealers' hands, and it's hard to know. I haven't completely figured out if that's good. I thought it was good at first, and then I thought some other things. Well, what if more people buy that and put it, and people are scared they'll have it in their house, and then married couples that have children, well, they do it because they think it's okay then. So that might be a tough one, but what do you go destroy all the plants? Or do we have a war and go destroy all the plants? Because the drug cartels ushered in terrorists. They've helped. The Democrats have teamed up with the drug cartels. That's what they're doing. Why do you think they like open borders? They are purposely letting Hamas, the terrorist group, and different people in. It's not by accident. And then because they let them in, and then they call people Islamophobe. And we're talking about for not wanting them here and stuff. That's a game. They planned it that way. The government planned it that way, the Democrat side. And so, that's how big the drug cartel is. They're coming through the drug cartel paths, right? And, we got a big cartel in America, too. They've also we have an American cartel we can't talk about because it'd be considered racist. But the Democrats they're this party of slavery. And they've really tricked people into thinking America is bad, right? America's about slavery. America came here to escape slavery. And then the Democrat side of America came here to try to stop people from being free. And they had the slavery. And they're mad that the Republicans ended slavery. And so they've decided to use black people. They have done that. And but also Islamic blacks have teamed up with white Democrats to use black people, lie about racism, qualify black racism. And so you got a lot of hate. There's more hate groups in the black communities than there are in the white communities. Now, I don't know if that's changing because you've let European hate groups cross the borders. You let European KKK cross the borders. I think it was a Canadian, but the guy that attacked Nancy Pelosi's husband with a hammer, he was looking for her. He's from Canada, I think. But some people that were stealing from ATM they were from Europe. Some guys recently in Riverside, California, I think were from Europe. Probably illegal immigrants from Europe, white guys. And they put some kind of thing that takes pictures of people's ATM numbers and all that, and the PIN number. When they used the ATM machine, they stole $10,000 at once, one day. I guess they probably did more than that, but in one day, apparently they got $10,000 and got caught, and then bailed themselves out with $10,000. So, by the way, they should be bailing. They should have been paying with that bail. Don't have the bail for when it's like that. You shouldn't be allowed to pay bail. You should pay that $10,000 back with the bail money. So, and then, of course, you're exonerated, kind of, but you got to spend time to show you're rehabbed. Okay. But that's a side point, but that's usually connected to drug deals and all that kind of stuff. You got all these thieves and crooks, then they're poisoning drugs, and they're putting it in people's faces. And I just saw a video of somebody riding through a town that shows people different towns. I won't say where, but they're riding through a town and they get attacked by somebody because riding through a gas station where there was some drug activity and gangs. And then he came down the street and then he's spinning out trying to get away from the guy. The guy blocks his car. It looks like he might have a gun in his hand, asking him what he's looking at. I think apparently that's what he was doing. The guy took off so fast. And then he went to the first red light. He's caught in traffic. And it was surprising. The guy apparently caught up with him. You heard him yelling. And then he went over the curb and got out of there, spun out and got away. The person making the video. He didn't talk. There was no talking on this. I wanted to hear the story. But that's, and you know, in the area where normally in real life, or in, let's see, in the old days, in dream life today, that's in an area where people would go house shopping. Close to an area where people would go house shopping for a deal in a house, starter home, a young married couple. But this guy almost got shot and killed just for riding through a gas station and going around twice. And then the cartels there thought he was spying on them, or could be suspicious. Or I don't know what happened, but this guy came after them. This one guy came after him on foot, and he had some kind of glove in his hand. Anyway, that I wish I would have heard more of the story. But that's how it is. That's how bad it is. You think your way's working? It's not working. You think demonizing God's medicine is correct and calling it the devil? That's a trick. That's a trick that started with the KKK. Evolution. KKK comes from evolution. All right, not from Christianity. All right. So Christianity teaches one human race. I mean, the Bible teaches that, shows that. So certainly a lot of churches had not paid attention to that part of the Bible. That's true. But the KKK, those kind of people infiltrated the church. That some of it were hypocrite churches, but they infiltrated the church based on using prohibition. And that is tricky. It is tricky. So I'm saying, but I'm telling you, we've been tricked. The Bible, the interpretation of the Bible may have been influenced into the churches, a lot of churches, by the KKK that says you can't drink wine. Now, I'm not into drinking wine or anything, but myself, I've done it before, but I'm not into it. I don't think it, but I don't think the Bible says not to. It doesn't say completely not to, because it's a medicine. It just says, it gives all the warnings, says, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess. And I've had people twist the verses to me all the time. But it also says in Proverbs 31, Solomon's talking to his son, that you cannot, let's see, it's been a while since I've used this verse, but give strong drink to a man on his deathbed, and give wine to a poor man, to drown his pains and sorrows from poverty, so he doesn't have to think of them anymore, or something like that. But it's not for kings to drink, so that they do not pervert justice. And so, if you think about it, that parallels something Paul said, somewhat parallels. When Paul says he doesn't want to drink, he wants to win as many souls to Christ as he can, and encourage as many Christians as he can. And he says he chooses not to drink for the sake of winning more souls, basically, for the sake of not offending people who don't understand, basically, that it's okay. Just like it's okay to eat unclean foods. If I remember the whole thing, that's a summary. But the point is that Proverbs 31 qualifies medicinal use. Then it talks about a good wife, I think, in the second half of that. It's been a while since I looked at it. But, so we've got it wrong, though. I mean, it's a medicine. We have herbs were made for man, God says all that. When we've used them for medicine, I don't understand what some of the poison plants are. You can go into a field and you bite the wrong berry, it'll kill you. It's poison. So there's probably some chemical that can be made from that for something. I don't know what. But, I mean, we've used fuel from the ground for cars, right? But anyhow, I'm going to calm down here and just try to logically show how good it could help to disempower the drug cartels. Now, I don't want to hate on the drug cartels 100%. They're people, and addicts are people, and we don't treat addicts like people, and we should treat addicts like people. We don't give addicts a chance at life, really. And the truth is, today's addicts are robbed or poisoned most of the time. So it's not, they look a lot worse than a normal addict. But if you legalize and have safe forms in the hands of, now not doing it the way they half-heartedly do it, and then it makes it, the cartel ends up working together like the weed, marijuana, I guess. They legalize it, but it's still illegal federally. Well, I mean, I don't know if you should legalize smoke forms, but I'm saying legalize some concentrated forms in doctors' hands, and even make safer pills of what they already have, like the Vicodin and Lortabs, all those kind of things. They should make safer forms of those. Less potent, less addictive. And I don't know it comes down to the addicts have to be responsible. The consumers have to be responsible. We have to teach them that's not the way to do things. But once you do that, we should have better rehabs and more rehabs and mandatory rehabs. If you legalize it proper, and we should still teach abstinence, not as if it's a sin or unpardonable sin and kick people down and all that stuff. But it would be a lot better because they're not going to be getting robbed so much. Now you'll have addicts that act up. But right now, it's the dealing groups that are the worst, not the addicts. But it's the addict dealers though that have joined them. A lot of them are bad, and they're probably some of the worst ones. But then obviously you have people, especially today, when they get poison mixed with poison and stuff. And I don't mean poison that kills somebody, but poison that blacks somebody out, and that is mixed with another drug that keeps them moving, but they're blacked out, and people don't even know they're blacked out. They're walking around talking, and they don't even remember what they did, right? So you got stuff that makes people run into the street, fidgety. That's mixed poison, or it's too strong. The point is, it's too strong. They get inconsistent stuff. They get fake stuff from dealers. They get stalkers. They get people fighting over them, extorting, fighting over slaves, demanding a slave can't talk to. They turn them into slaves. That's what it is. It's slavery. It's a slavery form. So that's why the Democrats have supported it, right? The Democrat Party is a godless party, but they promote Islamic theocracy and call people Islamophobes. You don't hear them calling anybody a Christianophobe. And the true phobia phobia means irrational fear. So Christianophobia, Christophobia, is a truly irrational fear, because he died and forgave everybody on the cross. And I mean, he suffered on the cross and forgave while he was suffering. Then he died. And he says that you can go to heaven if you trust me. And he proved he was God when he rose from the dead. And so it's a true phobia. But the point is, they're bullying people into complying with Islam, and we're not allowed to speak against it. More people need to speak up. And I'm telling, that's part of the part I'm going to holler at. What's the word I used? Shout. Holler, shout, yell. I didn't want to say yell. But when I said I'm going to shout, now, see, I forget points. When I just said that, now I forgot my last point. But my point is that Christians, if you're a real Christian, you need to learn to speak up. You need to start thinking about what you believe, about the central core root beliefs of what Christianity is about. It's about salvation. We all die. Simplify it like I do, because I know everybody doesn't have the gift of evangelism, right? But I don't have the gift of, whatever the other gifts are. We don't study gifts much. And it's hard to know if people are people are of weak faith. We don't have good knowledge. We always talk about holiness, 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 holiness. And that's for competition's sake a lot of times. That's not for, we need to be holy so we can be active, sharing the gospel, sharing the 10 Commandments, sharing how to love our neighbors with the 10 Commandments and all that. And with the police, with the cartel people need to hear it. So that's the other point I want to make. We can't. If they changed all the laws, I say they need to drop felonies they've given in the past for stuff. But the people who need to be in jail is the violent people, the people who have assaulted people, the people who have poisoned drugs, the people who have that clearly poisoned them, people who have extorted people, enslaved people, robbed people. But we also need to add a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff we have not even thought about. Simple stuff. When they're in jail, they need to pay back the person they robbed. It's real simple. And then a lot of people will get out earlier for that. And then they come out less paranoid, unless they've robbed 20 people they didn't get caught for. But a lot of those guys, they come at you in the streets, and they're tough and wanting to fight all the time, and you're wondering why they're like that. Probably because sometimes they're going to hurt you before you hurt them if you dare try to take revenge if you're one of the people they robbed. And they've probably robbed so many people. They don't know if you're one they did. Or, sometimes. So, I don't know. I've thought about that before. Why are they always like that? I've been around those circles. So, you have to teach the message. The police aren't going to win the battle. They're going to help a lot. They send a bigger message when it comes down to somebody killing somebody. It's usually after the fact. But we need to send the message out before the fact. Thou shalt not kill. And the church needs to be doing it. The Christians need to be doing it. Republicans need to wake up to this. I think there's a lot more Republicans who can pick up on this outside of the media Republicans. And that something in the media Republicans, they have pride and patriotism. Some of them have taught that and have been taught that. And it's a distraction, really. It's an angle that sometimes throws people off of reality. And so, they're sarcastic about people's behavior if they've on alcohol, drugs, and sexual behavior and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not talking about rape. I'm talking about people being, partying, getting drunk, or getting caught they made a video or something. It's like a porn video, which has been popular in our culture in the past. And so people, if they get drunk, they may think that's cool at the time, right? And then be embarrassed when they be sober up. So, but why would we? So the problem, there's some Phariseeism at play there, and not forgiving those people and moving on. Did they hurt somebody? The main thing is, did somebody hurt somebody? That's what jail's for. People who hurt people. But if obviously, if somebody embarrasses themselves when they're not sober, and they would do it again if they weren't sober again, they know they need to quit that medicine or switch medicines. So yes, I am taking, when the Bible talks about wine and alcohol for your deathbed and for depression, for being poor, it's not saying to do it every day. The warning verses are in Proverbs 23. So I remember that because of Psalm 23 being the Lord is my shepherd. But Psalm 23 has a lot of the warning verses about wine and beer. But Psalm 31 qualifies the medicine, and there's other verses that do that. So there's something in the Psalms that says that it makes the heart happy. Wine makes the heart happy or something. And it does. It takes your mind off of pain and sorrows. It does different things. It can help somebody sleep. But I don't choose to do it. I choose to try to stay off. I've had issues with things before, but not major. Major in some ways, but not addiction, not a regular addiction. Just, you call me at one time for a long time. Not a long time, but on and off a long time. A binge addict, in a sense. Somebody who doesn't go out for a long time, but gets either depressed, bored, lonely, or whatever, can't find friends in the prosperous side of society. And just thought it's okay to dabble. But then the problem with that is I've ran into that stuff, the poisons. I've run into the theft, and they get people who haven't been around. You can lose everything in one day, right? It's only one time, and it shouldn't have to be that way. So I'm not. And the point is, I've seen how it is. You got all those violent people, and I'm looking at their partners, and I'm thinking those are probably their slaves. I look at the women out there, and I'm thinking they're slaves. I don't. That's not always the case because women make slaves out of each other. I've seen one, two, three right off the top of my head times where I've run into women who are straight up killers. Maybe 4 times that I can think of right off. And that's in a few different cities. And they're straight up gangster killer. And usually it's men, though. It's usually men. I've survived those areas a lot because women protected me. I mean, women had my back. I guess their motherly instinct kicks in when they meet somebody who's friendly, whether they're in those circles or not. Even if they were racist against me, they still protect me. Usually because people have a racist ideology or a racist theory and think all white people are racist, for instance. But then when they see somebody face to face in a situation where you're around them and they continue to be kind, like Christ taught, I've seen people who talk to racists and didn't want anything to do with me, don't want me speaking or this and that, but then they'll protect me because I was friendly, and they were surprised. That catches them off guard too. So I mean, they're like, then they start, that's the thing. You get around and communicate. We have a lot of people. If everybody starts chipping in, just doing what they can here and there, it's the language. So the solution, you got to use this language. You got to use the language of, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. You got to open your mouth and say, we're not racist. It's not true. You got to say, we're one human race. You got to say these things. I can't be the only person saying it. Me and Vadi Bacham and then who else? I mean, the few people I know here and there say it. And there's so many other subjects for us to cover. We got to say it, put some truth out there. So words matter. And you got to start sticking up to the Democrats, because Democrats have lied. And Black America, a lot of Black America, some of them are starting to wake up, but they believe that the Republicans, because they promote America, they've been tricked into thinking because Republicans promote America that they support slavery. They're the party of slavery, they start assuming. That's the party that ended slavery. They promote America because they won. They won and implemented freedom, the free market system, free market capital system. Well, it's even hard for me to kind of notice because I look for what's the faults, how can we improve capitalism and all this. I always look at how we can improve, how can I do better, how can we do better. But they've tricked people into thinking capitalism is terrible, the devil and all that. And I was like, I didn't even defend it as much as I should those years. Now that's already passed in a way. They've almost finished that argument, but they can return to it. People have learned it so well, learned it backwards and the wrong way. And that they can just jump back and refer back to it, just like they've done they haven't been calling people Islamophobia in a while, but they've already trained them to know what that means. And so now that this happened in Israel, they're calling people Islamophobes all of a sudden. It's to something that extreme too. And anyhow, the capitalism was put in place to end slavery. It's part of the outlawing of slavery. You pay people for their labor. The Democrats want to get rid of capitalism because they want slavery back. There's no better system than capitalism that's ever been made, right? So, free market capitalism. Now, we have protections against monopolies. I don't know if they're exercising those well enough, because the Democrats have gotten in cahoots with monopolies, and they've ended up training all business that you can't talk business or politics. I mean, religion or politics. You can't talk religion or politics. And then there's if anybody does test positive for any type of drug, they lose their job in most places. And so, and a lot of times that's good. I mean, it's a good standard. In some ways, how do you look at it like it's a bad standard? But what it's done is created a segregated society on the negative side. But if you have legal forms, and they should be, if somebody's done something on a weekend, say if you got it legal, and they took a legal medicine or a legal form, from a licensed dealer. Drank a tea of a plant instead of having the strong forms. Well, some jobs like forklift driving and driving jobs, you just can't have anything. But if you come in Monday and they want to drug test you, if it shows it's just a minute amount in your system from 3 or 4 days on the weekend, Friday night. I don't that shouldn't put people out of work. I don't think, unless if send them to rehab, make a mandatory rehab before you fire them on the weekends, not so they're missing work, and so they're checking on you to see if you've quit. If they think they've come in sluggish Monday, and that's why they tested them. That's the reason to test. Or if they're losing their temper too much because they're having a hangover. That is a legitimate thing, for business. But as far as always, making that the biggest issue, the biggest issue is, do you get along with people? Are you peaceable? Are you doing your job? Are you having good personality skills? Do you believe in God? So we need to teach God to people. We've left God out. We need to stop blocking everybody from knowing who God is. Stop blocking God, blocking the subject of God, in practicality though, in realism, like with the Ten Commandments and things, and how He gave us governing for society and for ourselves. So it's hard. I guess it's been hard. I didn't know how this was going to turn out if I explained my epiphany well. But I'm certain, 70,000 people a year in America. 70,000 sounds like it's not even as much as it is. 70,000 people die a year from drug poisoning, overdose, fentanyl. I think that might just be from fentanyl. And then there's probably more than that, other overdoses and stuff. But it's from inconsistent products in the street. That doesn't even count the people they shoot. That doesn't count the people that they, and we got to start going after those kind of people. We got to, the whole system needs to change. It needs to be revamped completely and be more like, the police need to go after the Ten Commandments. And then we might need a separate police force, like one that's, let's just assume we legalize stuff proper. It's hard. I know that they're not going to follow through proper too easy. But they might if we have a big voice and a clear way of doing it. First of all, you legalize, give scientists a license to do it. And with many scientists, so they're competing. And you got bad scientists putting the formulas out there right now. You got evolution is fake science. You got evolution is real racism. It says we came from different animals unequally. They've never seen anybody evolve. Everybody's been born and died. And so what kind of science is that? But, how you deal with human beings if you don't know they die? They don't evolve, they die. So how you making medicines for them? But there's going to be evolutionists and there's going to be good scientists, Christian scientists. There's going to be different scientists, right? So, but you need to let a whole lot of them have a license so they're competing with the good scientists. Right now, the good scientists can't do anything. See, you got a lot of bad scientists doing stuff with the drugs in the street. Mixing them, putting special formulas. Trust me, they make sophisticated formulas to mess with people's minds in different ways. They've done all kinds of tests on people, and that is they work with the cartels, obviously, and they have the people are their lab rats. Addicts are their lab rats, and then on top of the people they give to deal the stuff are killers and thieves, mostly, right? So I'll say mostly too. And they're paranoid and shooting each other because they don't want to get caught and busted. And they'll shoot somebody just if they think they're going to tell. They might speak up or might get caught, or if they overdose, they kill them because they don't want them going to the hospital and somebody finding out they were using drugs. They do all kinds of stuff like that. That's where your missing persons come from, a lot of them. So that's the system now because you haven't let scientists, the good scientists, have a license to make safer forms of medicine with the medicinal plant forms God created. That's the point. Now they'll try to argue that, no, this medicine is this plant, the coca leaf is of the devil. No, it isn't. It's a pain medicine. And you need pain medicine for surgeries. You need pain medicine. That's probably the most natural medicine. And it was a trick for them to make it illegal. So there's other medicines. They've made methadone for heroin and it's helped a lot of people. But if people abuse it, that's on them. you can crack down on addicts who abuse stuff, or if they just hurt themselves. Some of them just overdose on their own, and they're not being violent to people and stuff. That's better than the current situation. But you obviously want to teach people health and to use a medicine that works better for them. If they really is somebody that's pretty dependent on medicines, teach them to keep working to improve their medicine habits, or switch to something else. Go on fasts periodically. Try to quit again. All that stuff. Instead, quit beating them up about it. But let them learn. Let them be interested in learning how to eat right, exercise, and take medicine to help themselves instead of hurting themselves, to their benefit instead of to their, what's the word I want? But detriment. I used to have another word I used, but detriment. So they would learn to do that, but right now it's for the money grabbers. They take medicine when the money grabber wants it, and they're threatened into doing it at those times, and they don't even want it. So that's the way it is now. And we Republicans have helped support that system, and so has the church folks. And they fall for this once an addict, always an addict, and all those tricks. So the point is, you take the drugs out of the cartel's hands and put it into licensed scientists' hands. And then you have the good scientists. The bad scientists will have to compete with the good scientists and to make safer medicines. And I'm running out of time. But they'll have to compete. That's the point, to make safer medicines. And then it's no longer, we blame everything on the addicts already instead of the dealers, right? The dealing crowds. But at that point, when you legalize it the way I'm talking about, then you blame the addicts. Then you have real rehabs with no coffee and no cigarettes. And then you have optional rehabs that say that you want off this specifically because you've had a problem with it. But it's okay if you still try to smoke cigarettes, but we're going to try to teach you how to smoke a safer cigarette, like palm olive. Wean off it if you can. It has less tar in it and all that. And puff it in your mouth. Don't puff it in your lungs. Hold it in your mouth and let it absorb through your tongue. And eventually you'll get less addicted, perhaps, and quit. So you work with people at whatever level they're at. And if they don't want to do that, you still can have groups for people. I don't think they're Christian if they don't want to keep trying to figure out how to beat it and get better at it. But it's kind of like chocolate and other things. You can be, at some point, you can finally put your foot down and beat it for a while, and then you might go back. And right now, I've beat my chocolate habit. Except I did have a little chocolate almond milk, just a dab in my chocolate drink the day before Thanksgiving, I think. Well, anyway, it was Sunday maybe. All right, I have to go because I don't want to waste this video, but it's funny how I go blank on explaining things and I give you support points. But I'm telling you, there's no question that it's better to have, there's no question at all. It's better to have medicines in the hands of licensed scientists and doctors and licensed dealers versus unlicensed dealers. And then just by virtue of doing that, how does that change what people, that makes it out of people's faces more, and it qualifies telling, if I'm an addict, I could say, get out of my face. I don't want your stuff. I can get some cheaper over here, safer over here if I want it. And I don't want it. I don't even want it. I'm enjoying my peace now. How is it going to be in people's face more? How is it? It's not. I mean, and if it is, they can tell on somebody for harassing them. Now you can't do that. You can't do it. I mean, at that point, things would be so much better because we'd have a better understanding. It's a trick. It's been a real psychological warfare, clever trick that's been played on churches. It's been played on science. It's been played on the country. It's been played on addicts. It's a big trick. It's on society. And so the point is you can actually crack down even more at that point because the dealers in the street, everybody knows, why do I want your drug? I don't know if there's poison in it. I don't know if it's got what it says it has. I want something with a bottle that I know what I'm getting, right? Straight from, I can get it on my own. I don't need your help to get me medicine. All right. So those people will start being held accountable for theft, bullying. That's what we're supposed to hold people accountable for. Love your neighbors. Love your neighbor laws. And then when it comes to those kind of other things, we got to teach more self-responsibility. But it's hard to be responsible for anybody that has any depression issues. There are people that need medicine for different reasons, whether it's their back or whatever. And you got to quit scorning that, scoffing at it. And look at the reality that there's people that use medicine, but they won't be hooked on it like they are with all the tricks that go on. So if they had real venues, they'd learn, because there's people that are teased by fake stuff. And like, well, I didn't get to find out if that works right and how I can wean off it. I lost money. So they lose money, they get robbed, and then they want to try it again. And then they go and they don't find something good, or they find something too strong and didn't know it was going to be that strong. Then people rob them again or something, right? So, but when you actually get to experiment, you find out which medicines work and what's best for you. Some people will say, well, everybody doesn't have the mind to do that. They'll just get addicted. Well, I mean, at least it's not being forced on them. And you can even teach more truth about nutrition and getting off caffeine. You can tell the truth about coffee. Like you have the real rehabs. They even get you off of coffee and cigarettes, where you rest and you fast. And you listen to the education I'm giving everybody, which nobody wants to, because they don't want to consider coffee a drug, but it is. So everybody that opposes what I say, they deny that coffee's addictive just like the other stuff, and it's not good for you. That, maybe it's just like a medicine. It's only good for you when it can help something specific, like staying awake. And then it tastes good. And then if you want a diuretic or clean out or whatever, but it's not the best way to do that. So chocolate's the same thing, and tea's the same thing with caffeine. And too many herbs are not even good, But you raise the standard. And why do people not want to raise the standard? Because then we can talk about gluttony. I don't know. Because we're raising the standard and actually having legal venues, so we don't have as much of a segregated society. And we actually have crooks in jail instead of hiding them behind the mask of drug dealing, and protecting drug dealers by picking on addicts all the time. Well, when we legalize, then you can pick on addicts and it makes sense. Because if somebody overdoses, they did it on their own, more often than not, in the legal way. And then you make mandatory rehabs. So they can't just be misbehaving on it. There's not an excuse to do that stuff and misbehave on it. There's an excuse now. I mean, somebody poisoned their drug, except they weren't supposed to go trust it. But those people have stole all their friends already. They stole, because there's a side of society that's not as prosperous as others, and they're surrounded by that. And they're not accepted by the prosperous side of people. So the only place they can look for friends is on the segregated side. There's no middle side. There's hardly any middle ground. So for a lot of people. So, when it comes to social life, and people do want a social life sometimes, and not necessarily always looking for a bad one. Certainly some people look for a bad one, but at least we can distinguish what's good and bad better than just acting like drinking too much coffee should disqualify people from housing and stuff. That's a comparable thing as to what's going on now. Okay, I've got to close out, and I feel like I didn't make it as clear as I wanted, but I got to go, or this may not even download. 1 John 4:8, he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. 1 John 1:8, he who says he has no sin makes God a liar, and the truth is not in him.